To live authentically is to embrace the absurdity of life, to acknowledge that the world is indifferent to our desires and yet to care deeply anyway. These words belong to Robert C. Solomon, a philosopher who dared to challenge everything we thought we knew about emotions, love, and what it means to be human. For over 3 decades, this distinguished teaching professor at the University of Texas at Austin fought against the cold, detached philosophy of his time, insisting that our feelings aren't obstacles to understanding, they're the very heart of it. Born in 1942 and teaching until his death in 2007, Solomon was a force of intellectual rebellion. While other philosophers retreated into abstract theories and logical puzzles, he explored love, anger, grief, and joy. Author of The Passions, Emotions, and the Meaning of Life, and more than 45 other books. He brought an Aristotelian perspective on virtue ethics to topics that mattered in everyday life. Philosophy, in his view, wasn't meant to live in ivory towers. As he put it, philosophy is not an abstract discipline, but a way of life. It is about asking the big questions and living with the answers. This wasn't academic posturing. This was his manifesto for living. Solomon's most radical contribution was his complete reconceptualization of emotions, in a world where feelings were dismissed as irrational or irrelevant. He offered a revolutionary claim. Emotions are not just feelings, they are judgments about the world and our place in it. They are our way of engaging with life, of caring about what happens to us and to others. Your anger isn't just a chemical reaction. Your love isn't merely a feeling. These emotions, according to Solomon, are intelligent responses, evaluations of what matters to us. Take anger, for instance. Anger is not just a reaction to being wronged. It is a demand for recognition, a refusal to accept injustice or disrespect. Suddenly, anger becomes a moral compass pointing toward what we value. Even grief, often seen as something to overcome quickly, received his philosophical validation. Grief is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to the depth of our connections. To grieve is to honor what we have lost. To feel deeply in Solomon's worldview is to live fully. He extended this thinking to happiness itself, rejecting the modern obsession with positive thinking and self-help shortcuts. Happiness is not a state of mind, but a way of living. It is the result of engaging deeply with life, not avoiding its challenges. The path to joy, he believed, ran straight through difficulty, not around it. And anxiety, that universal affliction, wasn't a disorder to eliminate, but a signal. Anxiety is not something to be avoided, but a sign that we are confronting the fundamental uncertainties of existence. Perhaps no topic received more of Solomon's attention than love. In his groundbreaking book, About Love, Reinventing Romance for Our Times, he systematically dismantled romantic cliches and rebuilt our understanding from the ground up. His opening salvo: love is not just a feeling, it is a commitment, a choice to prioritize another person's well-being and happiness as part of your own. This wasn't the passive, sweep-you-off-your-feet narrative sold by Hollywood. This was love as work, as dedication, as construction. He doubled down on this idea. Romantic love is not just a feeling, but a project, a shared commitment to build a life together. Notice the word project. Love requires effort, intentionality, ongoing creation. It's something we actively build rather than passively receive. Solomon rejected the toxic elements, often mistaken for passion. Jealousy is not a sign of love, but a sign of insecurity. True love is built on trust, not possession. And trust, in his framework, was non-negotiable. Trust is the foundation of all relationships. Without it, love, friendship, and even society itself would crumble. But perhaps his most liberating insight came here. The essence of love is not in finding the perfect person, but in learning to see an imperfect person perfectly. In one sentence, Solomon freed us from the exhausting pursuit of an ideal and invited us into the grace of acceptance. He redefined intimacy as vulnerability. Intimacy is not about sharing secrets, but about being vulnerable, about allowing someone to see you as you truly are. And he offered this generous vision. Love is not a zero-sum game. The more you give, the more you receive, and the richer your life becomes. Solomon drew deeply from existentialist thinkers like Sartre and Camus, but he made their sometimes dense ideas accessible. His declaration was both sobering and liberating. Life has no inherent meaning. It is up to us to create meaning through our relationships, projects, and commitments. This wasn't nihilism, it was freedom. If life has no prescribed meaning, then we're free to write our own story. Freedom itself took on new dimensions in his work. Freedom is not the absence of constraints, but the ability to choose how to respond to them. It is in our choices that we define ourselves. His concept of authenticity was equally refreshing. Authenticity is not about being true to some fixed idea of yourself, but about creating yourself through your choices and actions. You're not discovering who you are. You're inventing yourself every day through what you do. Solomon's approach to ethics was refreshingly practical. Drawing from Aristotle, he argued, ethics is not about following rules, but about cultivating virtues like compassion, courage, and integrity in our everyday lives. Morality, in his view, wasn't about memorizing commandments, but developing character through practice. Empathy sat at the center of this vision. Empathy is the ability to see the world through another's eyes, to feel what they feel, and to respond with compassion. Loyalty, too, received careful redefinition. Loyalty is not blind obedience, but a commitment to stand by someone, even when it is difficult, because you value the relationship. And forgiveness became an act of personal liberation. Forgiveness is not about forgetting, but about choosing to move forward without resentment. It is a gift we give to ourselves as much as to others. Solomon possessed a gift for balance. Even in championing self-examination, he offered a crucial warning. The unexamined life is not worth living, but the over-examined life is unbearable. Balance is key. Even Socrates, he suggested, could go too far. True wisdom, in his view, wasn't about certainty. Wisdom is not about having all the answers, but about learning to live with the questions. And surprisingly, for a serious philosopher, Solomon championed laughter. Humor is a philosophical tool. It allows us to see the absurdity of life and to laugh at ourselves, which is a form of wisdom. Solomon's philosophy extended beyond the personal into the political realm. Justice, for him, transcended mere fairness. Justice is not just about fairness, but about recognizing the humanity of others and treating them with dignity. His conception of community was equally rich. Community is not just a group of people living together, but a shared sense of purpose, a commitment to each other's well-being. On power, he offered nuance. Power is not inherently evil. It is the abuse of power that corrupts. True power is the ability to empower others. Tolerance became an active practice. Tolerance is not indifference, but the willingness to engage with differences, to learn from them, and to grow. Even culture was, for Solomon, alive and participatory. Culture is not just a set of traditions, but a living, evolving conversation about what it means to be human. Finally, Solomon addressed the ultimate question with characteristic directness. Death is not the opposite of life, but part of it. To live fully is to accept the inevitability of death and to find meaning in the face of it. This existentialist acceptance wasn't morbid. It was motivating. Knowing our time is limited makes each choice, each relationship, each moment more precious. Robert C. Solomon gave us permission to feel, to struggle, to create meaning in an absurd world. He insisted that philosophy belonged not in academic journals, but in our relationships, our choices, our daily lives. He saw emotions not as weaknesses, but as judgments, not as obstacles, but as pathways to understanding. In a world that often tells us to think less and feel less, Solomon's message remains urgent. Feel deeply, think carefully, live intentionally, create meaning, embrace the absurdity, care anyway. That's not just philosophy, that's wisdom for being human. I'm grateful for the moments shared in discourse. May our paths cross again in the fullness of time.